Welcome to the New Money Habits podcast, where we talk about how to create a better plan for your money so you don't have to live paycheck to paycheck. Here are your hosts, Sarah Jones and Nino Villa.
Welcome back, budgeteers. Coach Nino Villa here. Alongside me, it's Sarah Jones, my partner on the airways, as always. Hi, Sarah. How are you? And what's going on in your crazy around the country adventures?
Hey, Nino. Hey, everyone. Doing all right today. I will say I grew up on the river bottom and used to a lot of deer, a lot of wild animals, I grew up seeing a lot of nature and wildlife. The place that we are staying at right now, the amount of deer that just hang out I haven't seen this quantity in a really long time. And there are some brand new babies, still have the spots on them. And gosh darn it, aren't they the cutest things ever? Watching these little baby deer run all over. And the fireflies, the amount of fireflies that are here, it's incredible. I go out and record them almost every night. You know me, I like the creatures, right? And looking for all the fun things, but it's been really enjoyable. And can I just say it's nice. It's a nice reminder to kind of take a step back and to enjoy some of these little things, some of the things that we might take for granted or that we might not notice in everyday life. This has been a really good reminder for me to just slow down, step outside, and see what nature has to offer.
Yeah. I'm on the verge of having to ask you to stop sharing, though, because I'm about to throw my entire money plan out the window and just pack the family up in the car or whatever and make our way to where you are, because that sounds amazing. But I can't go blowing up my money plan because a trip to Tennessee is not in our plan right now. So you need to stop that.
I don't know what to tell you.
All said in love and fun and just,
right.
That sounds amazing. It sounds utterly amazing that I just want to drop everything and head to where you are, especially now that it's becoming summertime here in Phoenix. See, you got out of Phoenix a couple of months ago. You were smart. You were wise because, now we're in the triple digits. And it's just going to keep creeping a little higher and higher. And I usually tell everybody I'm fine to about 105. 105, it's hot, but I can handle it. I don't know what happens at 106, but at 106 and hotter, I'm this is just so. Now, luckily, we haven't hit that just yet. It's been 101, 102, but it's flirting with 106 and hotter.
I'll be honest, I'm a little jealous. I am literally wearing a jacket today because it's chilly and storms have come through, but the humidity is still a thing. And at 86 degrees outside with 86% humidity, it's something I can't describe. It's not, I'll take the dry heat. I really will. There is a difference, folks. If you don't believe me, I'm telling you, I've lived in both. There really is a difference.
There really is. I think I may have shared before, but I think it bears repeating. In 2017, we did a cross-country trip to see family in Buffalo, New York. And we drove out there, we drove back. And on the way back, we stopped off in New Orleans. And when we left New Orleans in the morning, we stopped at Baton Rouge in the afternoon in July. I never appreciated dry heat more than getting out of the car in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Yes, it is a dry heat. There is some moisture in the air, but we're talking maybe 15 to 30% humidity. It's nothing. So, I'll take it any day of the week.
So will I.
Yeah. So let's dive into today's topic. Wow, that's a tongue twister. Let's dive into today's topic. We wanted to take some time. I know Sarah, you and I both have like this interesting perspective on today's topic, because it's like it seems relatively rudimentary, very basic, but at the same time, it's completely foundational to anybody and everybody's entire money situation. And so today we're going to talk about knowing your actual numbers, your true household income, and what that actually means and how it kind of plays into your money plan. But before we do that, don't miss out on the valuable financial insights that we share here on the New Money Habits podcast. Subscribe today and unlock a wealth of knowledge to empower your financial journey. Stay up to date with the latest episodes as Sarah and I discuss practical tips, host expert guests, and have thought-provoking discussions on all things money related. Hit that subscribe button now and join our community of savvy listeners. Also, are you ready to take your financial growth to the next level? Schedule a free discovery call with Sarah or myself today. During our personalized session, we will discuss your specific financial goals, gain clarity on your challenges, and explore how working with a financial coach can accelerate your progress. Don't miss out on this valuable opportunity. Book your free discovery call now and create the new money habits needed to achieve financial freedom. All right, so what do we mean, Sarah, when we say know your numbers, your annual household income? What does that even mean?
Well, I think where this topic spurred was I had a conversation, and many, but recently with somebody, and they didn't know what numbers were on their pay stub. They didn't really even know what their pay stub was. They really didn't know how much they made per year. They knew how much they made per hour, but hadn't done any of the other, and I'll call it research, right? To see how much do I actually make in a year, or where is my pay stub, right? And what's being taken out? What am I paying for before I get my paycheck in? And, it actually kind of took me back a little bit, Nino, because this really is basic financial literacy. And I really want to make sure that we get this information out to people, right? We talk about financial literacy and learning, but this is really like you said a minute ago, this applies to every single person. Every single person.
The word I used a few moments ago is it's foundational, right? If you don't understand what you have coming in and what impacts that income, right? Because there's a difference, and we'll talk about it in just a moment. There's a difference between your gross income and your net income. And if you don't understand what you have coming in, how can you then effectively plan for what needs to go out? And so without this foundational understanding of gross versus net income and what your annual household income is, it makes it more difficult to manage money well and effectively, because you're missing an important piece of the equation. So let's start by defining the difference between gross and net income. What does that look like?
Well, gross is basically the whole. I like to break it down in easily digestible pieces, and this is what you make before any deductions, any taxes, anything is taken out. So if you're on a salary per month, it's basically what that salary is times 12 months a year, gross, right? You can add on any bonuses, or, if you receive bonuses. So it's before anything else is taken out. That's the full piece, the whole pie, so to speak.
Yeah, I think, another way to put that is whether you're hourly or you have an annual salary, it's kind of the number that you agreed to be compensated, but again, without anything being deducted from it just yet. So if you are hourly and you negotiated, $16 an hour, well, that's your gross pay, $16 an hour. When you multiply that by a number of hours that you've worked in a week and then you get paid, unfortunately, it's not just a simple 16 times 40 equals number, because there are going to be deductions. And the same thing for a salary. If you've negotiated your salary to be $77,000 for the year, well, when you add up all of the paychecks or the direct deposits that you received throughout the year, whether you're paid monthly, biweekly, regardless, it's not going to equal $77,000 because that is your gross pay. And there are a bunch of things being deducted, taken out of your pay to pay for things like, and we'll get into all of these, but to pay for things like healthcare, a retirement plan if you're contributing to it, whatever that is. But these are all being taken out of your paycheck, and then you are left with the net. So gross, what you agreed to be paid; net, what you're actually being paid after all of your deductions.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of people get frustrated with the net.
Guilty right here. I get frustrated with the net. So let's dive in to some of the things that are being taken from your paycheck that is driving your gross income down. And let's see what control we have over some of these things. Because we do. I think one of the biggest misconceptions here is that, well, why are we even talking about this? There is nothing I can do about it. That's exactly why we're talking about it, because there are plenty of things that you can do to influence the difference between your gross pay and your net pay. And the first starts off with income tax. And I think this is probably why most people are frustrated with the net number, because good old Uncle Sam is putting his hand way down into your pocket and grabbing a good old chunk of your money.
Yeah. And unfortunately, we all have to pay them. And I just want to say,
without getting too political, do we all need to pay income tax? I'll leave it at that and we'll move on.
Well, and I'll say this too, guys, that this applies whether you work for somebody else, you are a W-2 employee, or you are a 1099 contractor, or you own your own business. Now, some of these things will be a little bit different depending, but that's why I said it applies to everybody. I think there is this misconception with people and small business owners, and we're not going to talk a lot about that today, but you still have deductions taken out of the income that your business makes, right? And you are still liable for a lot of these areas. So I just want to throw that out there, that it doesn't matter if you're W-2, 1099 contractor, or a business owner, you still have a lot of these deductions that you are responsible for.
That's right. Yeah. And for me, income tax is frustrating just because I think the system is really weird and whatnot, but we do have control over federal income tax and state income tax, if that applies, how much of that is being deducted. And so, through the filing of, if you're a W-2 employee and you work for somebody else, through the filing of your W-4 form with your human resource department, you can kind of dictate whether or not the federal government takes more or less money. And that should all be based on whether or not you're getting a federal tax refund at the end of the year, or if you owe. Because if you owe, you probably want to actually send off more money to the federal government just so you don't owe. But if you're getting a large tax refund, it means you're sending the federal government more money than you have to through your payroll deductions, and you could adjust it so that you can actually bring more of that money home, essentially giving yourself a raise instantaneously.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's an area that not a lot of people know about or feel comfortable with making those decisions. And I love that we're talking about it, because you really do have, again, it puts some control back in your own hands, that you can make some of these choices, guys, right? And I think sometimes we just forget, or we don't know, or we're scared. I'm going to encourage you to not be scared, but do your research, right? Really look at what options you have and how that might benefit your family.
Yep, absolutely. A couple of other taxes that you're going to see come out of your paycheck, out of your gross pay, that you have less control over are things like Social Security tax and Medicare tax. These are just taxes that are essentially going into entitlement programs to help out with future retirement if the government has to step in and pay you retirement funds. And Medicare tax, same thing. It's all going into a pool of money to help those who need assistance with healthcare. But you don't really get to control those the same way you can federal income tax, because it's just a set percentage of how much is being taken.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
A couple other things that you do have control over, and this one I want to give a little bit of attention to, because I think there are a lot of either misconceptions or the information is just so big and that we don't ask the right questions, or we focus on the wrong things, and that is health insurance. If you are provided health insurance through your employer, you are being charged some portion of the premium, the monthly premium, as a deduction from your paycheck. But typically, that's not just it's $200 every paycheck and that's it. There's usually a lot more that goes into how much is being deducted from your paycheck and why.
Yeah, and it all goes back, Nino, to what plan you choose. If your company offers different options, it goes back to what plan you choose. There are I have found a ton of add-ons too that greatly affect, your what's being taken out. And I just want to say that in my experience, people focus on the amount that's being taken out and not the coverage. And I really want to just say this real quick, guys, that I really, really want you to pay attention to what your coverage is, because it helps you in your, I'm going to use quote, normal everyday life, in your budget, your money plan, right? It allows you to know how much you need to plan for medical expenses. What is your deductible? What is your out-of-pocket expenses? How much do prescriptions cost and doctor's visits? You really need to know those things so you can plan monthly more effectively. And it all comes back to your health insurance premiums and what options for coverage, what plans are available to you. So I don't want you to take these things lightly. If you don't know, if you have questions, then I want you to dig before you sign up for anything. Dig, ask the HR, call the companies, make sure that you have the good information that you need before you just sign up, because it really does affect your entire money plan every year. And I've seen it, quite honestly, be kind of devastating in my own life as well, when you don't have the right coverage and you don't really know what your plan covers. So that's a little bit of a sidebar, but I really want to hit home with that you control. Now, there might be some smaller companies, right, that have one plan, it's either this or nothing at all. You could also choose that as an option, but just be aware that you do have some choices, and don't take them lightly.
Yeah. I wanted to give this a little extra attention because, to your point, typically you do have some options. And if you're not really looking behind the curtain, you can miss something that's very foundational to the rest of your money plan. And so sometimes when you go for the cheapest monthly premium, I'm just going to use this as an example, but imagine you have the opportunity to get coverage for $200 a month. And let's say it's just individual coverage. Well, if you don't look behind the curtain to see what does that actually cover, you might miss the fact that there might be a high deductible. So maybe there's a $10,000 deductible. And so yes, you're only paying $200 a month, but you have this $10,000 deductible, which means the first $10,000 is on you. Well, if you know that the first $10,000 is on you, but you don't have, say, a $10,000 peace of mind fund, otherwise known as an emergency fund, see how that decision has a ripple effect and an impact on your money plan. Then maybe you have a second option where maybe it's more like $400 a month, but then there is no deductible. And so depending on your own personal health and how often you need to visit the doctor's office or what have you, that $400 a month, although it's costing you double, without a $10,000 deductible, might be what's best for your financial situation. And so these options are important to look and scrutinize a little bit more closely to figure out not just what is the monthly premium, but what is the value I get for that monthly premium.
Yes, thank you for breaking it down in a much more, much more understandable way than I did. That's exactly it. And Nino, I have lived this so many times over with multiple surgeries. I've had 17 surgeries. My son has type 1 diabetes, a lot of medical supplies, a lot of prescriptions, a lot of doctor's visits and labs. And it greatly affects your monthly budget, your yearly budget, if you don't know what your health insurance covers. And take it from somebody who has lived it. It's not enjoyable, any piece of it, but knowing the information, trying to make a really informed decision before you just say, yeah, let me go with the cheapest plan, because you're just looking at the numbers. And let me just throw this out there, guys, because when you're going and you're buying a vehicle, you're not looking for the car with the cheapest price most of the time, the cheapest monthly payment. You're looking for the car that you really want to drive, right? You're like, oh, I love that car. That looks... And then you work out some payments. The same thing should go with your health insurance. Find the one that really is going to work best for your family first. Don't go after just the lowest monthly payment.
Yeah, so important. Another big deduction that's coming out of your paycheck that you may or may not even know about would be the idea of retirement contributions. So some employers, they set you up with a 401k, which is awesome. Thank you very much for doing that. And if you don't make some type of declaration of how much you want to contribute to it, they may just start you at, say, like 3%, just using that as an example. So 3% of your paycheck might be coming out and going into retirement, which is a great use of your money. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying, hey, you should look at your pay stub to see if you're contributing to a retirement plan that you didn't kind of select. But at the same time, I do want you to look at your paycheck to see if you're contributing to a retirement account. And I want you to get involved. I want you to make the decision how much of your paycheck should be going to that. Does your company offer a match? Maybe you're doing 3% so that you get a 3% match, and now you're contributing 6% of your annual salary into a 401k, and that's fantastic. But more importantly than that, I want you to take the next step and actually engage with the 401k financial institution so that you can select how your 401k is invested in all those. That's a different topic for a different story, but it all goes back to it's foundational that you know what's coming out of your paycheck so that you have awareness and insight to, am I contributing to retirement right now or am I not? Would I like to? How much? And when it's being invested, what is it being invested in?
That, and also know that those retirement contributions are coming out pre-tax, a lot of them. There might be some option for post-tax. And so this is important to know because you might hit the monthly or the yearly caps, right? How much you can contribute to these retirement accounts. And so the percentages that you're contributing, right, are based on pre-tax numbers. So gross pay versus the net pay, the after taxes, right? And so that's just important information to know. You guys should know when these things are coming out and how they're calculated. And retirement contributions are most of them. There are a few options that might be post-tax. Most of them are pre-tax.
Yeah. That reminds me of old, and it's probably happened on multiple TV shows, but growing up in the era that I did, it was Fresh Prince of Bel-Air for me. When I think like Hillary gets like one of her first paychecks and she opens it up and she's all like, who's FICA and what's this? And, it's just not having an awareness of what is coming out of your paycheck. And sometimes these all can add up to be hundreds, if not sometimes into the thousands of dollars coming out of your paycheck. A couple of other things to keep in mind that I don't know that we need to spend any like real time on is, but just know that things like if you're contributing to a life insurance policy through work, that that's being deducted from your pay. If you have union representation, if you're in the UF, oh wow, I had it, UFCW, out in California or something like that, you have union dues, so those things are coming out. If you have like a flexible spending account through health insurance, so that you have the ability to save some other pre-tax dollars towards medical expenses. But wage garnishments, I had a client come to me, I was going to say recently, but now that I'm thinking about it, it might have been like well over a year ago. And his biggest concern was that he was receiving documentation that they were about to take garnishments out of his wages, and he wanted to plan for, how do I manage that, and those types of things. And so that could be another one that's showing up on your paycheck as well, and it's affecting your net pay. Your gross salary might be $77,000, but you're bringing home far less than that because of these types of deductions.
Yeah, and I just want to point out too, Nino, that we talked about some of the areas that you do have control over, right? Health insurance premiums, you have a little bit of control over, how much is being taken out. Your retirement contributions, that's where you've got some control over, your net income, your HSAs, your FSAs, your life insurance, and those garnishments. Even to a certain extent, you could have some control over that, and so I just want to bring that back around for all of our listeners, that you guys have a lot of areas within your deductions where you have control over, so you can be bringing in potentially more net income into your household every month, or setting yourself up, dare I use the word better, right? Long term, by using these things strategically in your money plan, right? So you're setting yourself up for those retirement contributions to be taken out pre-tax, the HSAs to be contributing, right? You have a lot of control in this area that I think most people just aren't aware of.
Yeah. And so I think I want to highlight, the financial impact here is that it's going to affect how you plan, how you save, and how you invest. But to your point, Sarah, like, you have control. Don't set it and forget it. Don't just agree to $16 an hour, $45,000 a year without looking at your pay stub and seeing what's being deducted, and taking control over those deductions, and either increasing, decreasing, but you control and help it to set the rest of your money plan.
Absolutely. And just know that it affects your money in a lot of different areas, and it also can affect your mental health too, right? I hear and talk with a lot of people that are like, dang, I'm just not bringing home very much money. And I say, well, let's take a look at your pay stub and let's see what's going on. I think we get so focused in cutting back on some of our expenses, right? Or getting a side gig, not saying either one of those is good or bad. However, maybe you need to be looking at your pay stub. And here's the thing too, guys. Mistakes and accidents happen. It is so important that you look at your pay stub every time you get paid, because maybe there's hours that didn't get accredited to you, right? Maybe they a mistake on something, right? Maybe they didn't get all the days that you worked. Maybe they gave you an extra vacation day. Your paycheck is a little bit larger than what you anticipated. Look at your pay stub and figure out why, right? You need to be aware of these things, because accidents and mistakes happen. None of this is foolproof. And I say this is an area that I think we put in other people's hands, that we have really an obligation to ourselves to keep an eye on. So please look at your pay stub. If you don't know where to find it, go ask the HR department, ask your boss and say, listen, I really need to know where my pay stubs are. Please go and find it and look at it every time you get paid. Please, please. It will literally take you less than 5 minutes.
Yeah. Before we hit the word record, you had mentioned something, Sarah, that I think bears repeating for our listeners to hear. And that is, ever since going digital, right? I mean,
Mm.
we don't receive a paycheck in the mail, or we don't get handed a paycheck on Fridays in the office or at the restaurant or whatever the case may be. Because of direct deposit, our money just kind of shows up in our bank account, and our pay stubs, since they don't need to hand us a paper paycheck, our pay stubs have become digital too, and they're online. And to your point, far too often people don't know exactly where to go to find that digital copy of their pay stub. And so I appreciate you encouraging our listeners, like, go and find it, reach out to HR, reach out to your boss. If you work, for a small business and it's just you, three other people and the boss, well, hey boss, where do I find my paycheck? Because, I need to know what's going on. So I really appreciate that.
Hmm. Well, I think, again, it's okay to voice that, and it's okay to say, hey, I haven't looked at it before. I don't know where to find it, but now I'm going to, right? Here's where I'm changing some of my habits. Mm-hmm. If you listen to an old episode, we kind of talked about, you can change some of your habits and behaviors. This is a great one. Just because you haven't done it in the past doesn't mean that you can't start, and you can start today. So start researching, where do I find it? Who do I need to contact to get passwords or the websites or what have you? And then just make it part of your weekly or bi-monthly part of your budgeting, right? When you're sitting down and you're putting together your money plan for the next pay period, gosh, then you get to go in and look at your pay stub, make sure everything is as it should be, and done.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of past episodes and some past advice that is relevant now, is one of the things that we said, one of the strategies that you can maximize your net income is by looking at your tax withholdings. And, real quick, I did a research. I researched how much the average tax refund has been in 2023. And the average tax refund in 2023 is $2,700. That means you've overpaid your taxes by $2,700 throughout the year. If you divide that by 26, if you're paid biweekly, that's $105. You can give yourself a $105 raise today by adjusting your tax withholdings. Now, don't go off and do that without researching for yourself, what was your tax refund, or how much are you on the hook for tax-wise. But just to give an indication of, if the average American household is getting a $2,700 refund, that means that they overpaid, and there's an opportunity to increase your pay just by making a simple adjustment. And then the idea that I kind of want to maybe end this particular episode on is this idea of, like, you get to negotiate your compensation. If you are not somebody who has ever done that, do some research on tactful, skillful ways of doing that. But as you mature in your professions, as you gain expertise and experience, and as you differentiate yourself from other people, whether you're going into a job and they're making you an offer and you're countering that and negotiating that way, or you're in your role and it's time to negotiate a pay increase, negotiate your salary. Everything is negotiable. If you don't like how much you're being compensated, make it known, and do it in a tactful and professional way, and showcase your value so that you can be compensated accordingly.
I love, love, love that. Nino, for many years, right, we've been told, don't talk about what you make with your coworkers. Don't mention how much you're making. And now there's kind of a theory, and I don't know where it started, but now a lot of places are encouraging people to talk about what they're making, because some businesses are kind of maybe being shady with it, hiring people for less than maybe what they're really worth, right? Or you hire one person for say 19 an hour and you hire another one doing the same job for 15 an hour to try and save some money. That's not right. Right? If the skill set is the same. I just had a conversation with my daughter yesterday on this. She's been working at a place for, I'm going to say probably a year and a half now. And she was telling me that somebody was hired that's making 50 cents an hour more than she is. And for a year and a half, and to hire somebody doing the same job. Now, do I know exactly what the different skill sets are? Absolutely not. But what I encouraged her to do was to go to the people in charge, to her superiors, and talk with them about that and say, listen, guys, you guys need to sell yourselves to companies. I think that we feel like, oh, the company's struggling, so I don't want to ask for more money, or I'm too embarrassed to ask for more. If you are a decent employee and you know your skill set and you know that you're contributing and you're showing up and giving 100%, then I think that you should not be embarrassed to ask for more and ask for your worth, because if you're really that good of an employee, the business owners, they will see that and they will do a lot of things to try and keep you there. And I think that negotiating our salaries is one of the most underused strategies and techniques. That we just take it, what they say they're going to give us, we just take it, and we like, oh, okay, you're selling yourself short.
Yeah. I have two experiences from back in my W-2 days that kind of hit the point home for me that my colleagues and I should actually talk about our salaries, because there was just too big of a discrepancy, right? I'm a firm believer that, experience, if I have more experience than somebody else, maybe I'm more efficient than that person. Even if we're doing the same role, maybe I do get compensated a little bit more because of my experience and my efficiency. And that kind of discrepancy is fine in my book. What's not fine in my book are these two examples. One time I was sitting with peers in which I did the same type of work that they did, just on a little bit smaller scale. So like if they were managing 250 employees, I was managing about 125. So about half the amount of employees, but everything that they had to do for their employees, I had to do for mine. And so it didn't change kind of some of the day-to-day functions. They were just doing it for more people. So we're going through this activity where we're talking about compensation for people who reported to us. And one of my peers was like, well, maybe we should start them at this number. I'll make up the numbers just to give you an example, but like maybe we should start them at $65,000 a year. And I was probably making like just a couple thousand more than that. And I'm like, if you think you should be compensating the person who reports to me at about the same that I'm making, how much more are you making than I am? Okay. That was the first little bit. The second is a very similar, where I was in a role where I was very well compensated, very pleased with where I was. And my path to that particular position was very unique. My path to it was an independent contributor position where I didn't have anybody reporting to me, but I was compensated very, very well because I had come from management. So my path through management kind of increased my pay, and they decided, we're not going to decrease your pay. We're actually going to give you a pay raise and put you in an independent individual contributor position. I'm like, thank you. I don't have any of the responsibility and you're going to pay me more? Cool. I'm fine with that. But when I learned that my counterparts made as much as $25,000 less than I did, I was like, yes, I have more experience and more efficiency, but I don't think I had $25,000 a year more experience and efficiency. And so I almost felt like I would be doing my counterparts a disservice to not inform them that they could be compensated much better than what they were being compensated. And so I like the idea of an open dialogue around compensation so that two people who are in the same role, they don't have to make the exact same number, but there shouldn't be a $25,000 discrepancy between what they're making.
Agreed. And, and I don't want to get into a lot of, touchy subjects, but I will say that it's also important to bridge the gap between what male and females make at jobs, because that has been proven that there's a difference, there's a discrepancy, or different ethnicities.
Ethnicities, yep.
That didn't want to come out. Right? So I think that we do need to be talking about it. And I do want to encourage you to talk about it. And again, I'm not saying that everything needs to be exactly equal, which I know that's not what you're saying either, Nino, right? Mm-hmm. But it is about making sure that everybody's fairly compensated for the work that they're doing in similar roles, right? And the only way to know that is if you're talking about it. So negotiate those salaries, folks.
That's right. All right. Well, this is one of those, again, amazing conversations. I'm so glad that we've had it, in that we're talking about the foundational necessity to understand the difference between your gross pay and your net pay, and that we're encouraging you to go out there and get compensated for your value. And part of that is educating yourself around, what are others in similar roles making, and whether you can have that conversation with a colleague, or use tools on the internet that tell you what the going rate for somebody in your position is in your area. There's definitely resources out there.
Absolutely.
I think that does it for this. So I'm going to back it up. So glad we had the conversation. And as we always do, we'll continue our conversation next time.
Thank you for listening to the New Money Habits podcast, brought to you by New Money Habits and Keeping Up with the Joneses Financial Coaching. Submit your questions to our host by emailing podcast@newmoneyhabits.com. Be sure to subscribe to be notified of future episodes. Join our growing group of like-minded people on Facebook and follow us on your favorite platform. Music provided by Summer School.